The cargo freighter USS Endurance moved silently through the vast emptiness of the Kepler expanse, a region of space that belonged to no one and served as a dangerous crossroads between human territories and the lawless Outer Rim. Captain Nathan Cole sat in the command chair with his eyes fixed on the forward view screen, watching the distant stars drift by like tiny diamonds scattered across black velvet. His crew of 43 men and women went about their duties with the calm efficiency that came from years of training and experience. Lieutenant Lisa Vance monitored the sensor array at her station, her fingers dancing across holographic displays as she tracked every object within 1,000,000 kilometers of the ship. The Endurance appeared to be nothing special at first glance. She looked like any other merchant vessel hauling supplies between colonies, with her boxy frame and faded hull plating that showed the wear of countless journeys through deep space. But appearances could be deceiving, and in this case, they were designed to deceive. Commander Daniel Harris approached the captain's chair with a tablet in his hand. He was a tall man with graying hair and the kind of weathered face that came from spending decades in the military before supposedly retiring to civilian life. Supply manifests are complete, Captain, Harris reported, though both men knew the manifests were fabricated documents designed to support their cover story. All systems are operating within normal parameters. Cole nodded and took the tablet, pretending to review the information while his mind remained focused on the mission. Earth Defense Command had sent the Endurance into this region for one specific purpose, and that purpose had nothing to do with hauling cargo. For the past 3 years, Cathari raiding parties had been attacking human shipping lanes with increasing boldness. They struck fast, disabled their targets, and vanished before any military response could arrive. Dozens of freighters had been lost, hundreds of crew members killed or taken as slaves, and the attack showed no signs of stopping. The Cathari were a reptilian species that had built their entire civilization around warfare and conquest. They viewed other species as either threats to be eliminated or resources to be exploited. Humans fell into the second category in their eyes. Seen as soft and weak creatures who lacked the warrior spirit, Cole had read the intelligence reports, had seen the footage of captured human crews being dragged off to slave markets on distant worlds. He had studied the Cathari battle tactics and learned their patterns. They always targeted vessels that appeared defenseless, always demanded surrender, and always killed anyone who resisted. Captain, Lisa Vance's voice cut through the quiet of the bridge with sudden urgency. I have contacts dropping out of hyperspace, 3 vessels, bearing 275 Mark 12. Cole felt his pulse quicken, but kept his expression neutral. Identification? Running analysis now, Vance replied, her eyes scanning the data streaming across her console. Configuration matches Cathari Hunter-class warships. They are moving into an encirclement pattern around our position. This was exactly what they had been waiting for. 3 alien vessels emerged from the swirling blue vortexes of hyperspace like predators emerging from shadows. Each ship was roughly the same size as the Endurance, but covered in angular armor plating and bristling with visible weapon emplacements. They took up positions in a triangle formation, cutting off any obvious escape routes. Kevin Park sat at the tactical station with his hands resting casually on the controls. He had spent 15 years as a weapons officer aboard the battlecruiser USS Sovereign and had seen more combat than most people could imagine. His calm demeanor betrayed none of the anticipation building inside him. They are hailing U.S., reported Communications Officer Maria Santos from her station. Cole straightened in his chair and made sure his expression showed the appropriate amount of fear that a civilian captain would feel in this situation. Put them on screen. The main view screen flickered and changed to show the interior of an alien bridge. The Cathari commander sat in a throne-like chair surrounded by his crew, his scaled green skin gleaming under harsh lighting. Yellow eyes with vertical pupils stared out from a face that combined reptilian features with something almost serpentine. Rows of sharp teeth became visible as he spoke. Human vessel. I am Warlord Sethric of the Kethari Dominion, the alien announced, his voice carrying the arrogance of someone who had never experienced defeat. You are surrounded, outgunned. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. If you comply without resistance, some of your crew may be permitted to live. Cole allowed a tremor to enter his voice, playing the role of a frightened merchant captain. Please, we are just a cargo ship. We have no weapons, no way to fight. What do you want from us? Sethrac's lipless mouth twisted into what might have been a smile. Your cargo will become our cargo. Your ship will become our prize. Your crew will become our property. This is the way of things. Humans are weak creatures who exist only to serve their betters. On the bridge of the Endurance, every crew member remained at their station with practiced discipline. They had all heard similar words before, had all read the reports of what the Kethari did to captured humans. But unlike the civilian crews who had fallen victim to these raiders, this crew knew exactly what was about to happen. Chief Engineer Scott Bradley monitored the power systems from his station near the rear of the bridge. Hidden beneath the Endurance's civilian exterior was a military-grade fusion reactor capable of powering weapons and shields that would make a battleship captain jealous. At the moment, those systems were running in stealth mode. Invisible to Kethari Sensors pilot Amy Nguyen kept her hands steady on the helm controls, ready to execute any maneuver the captain ordered. She had flown combat missions during the Centauri conflict and had racked up more confirmed kills than anyone in her squadron. Flying a Q-ship against pirates was almost relaxing by comparison. Cole maintained his frightened act for a few more seconds before allowing his expression to change. The fear melted away, replaced by something cold and hard and dangerous. He leaned back in his chair and regarded the alien warlord with newfound intensity. Warlord Sethrac, Cole said, his voice now carrying the authority of a man who had commanded warships in battle. I am going to give you one chance to withdraw your forces and leave this sector. Take it, and you may live to raid another day. Refuse. I promise you that none of your ships will survive the next 10 minutes. Sethric stared at the human with obvious confusion. This was not how humans were supposed to behave. They were supposed to beg, to plead, to surrender without resistance. The intelligence gathered over decades of raiding had consistently shown humans to be cowardly creatures who valued their lives above all else. You threaten me? Sethric hissed, his yellow eyes narrowing with anger. You pilot a cargo vessel with no weapons and no military training, yet you dare to threaten a Kethari warlord? Cole smiled, and there was no warmth in it. I have given you fair warning. What happens next is entirely your choice. But I want you to remember, in the brief time you have remaining, that you were offered a way out and you refused it. The transmission ended, and the bridge of the Endurance fell silent as the crew waited for the enemy's response. They did not have to wait long. Sethric slammed his clawed fist against the armrest of his command throne, his yellow eyes burning with fury at the human's unexpected defiance. No cargo ship captain had ever spoken to him with such arrogance, such complete disregard for the obvious danger they faced. The human has lost his mind, Sethric growled to his bridge crew. Perhaps fear has broken his sanity. It matters not. We will take his ship and make an example of him for all other humans to witness. His tactical officer, a younger Kethari named Varax, studied the sensor readings with growing unease. Something about this situation felt wrong, though he could not identify exactly what was causing his discomfort. Warlord, perhaps we should conduct deeper scans of the human vessel, Varax suggested cautiously. The captain's behavior is unusual. He acts as though he holds some advantage we cannot see. Sethric dismissed the suggestion with a wave of his clawed hand. Humans always bluff when faced with superior force. It is their nature to pretend strength they do not possess. Our scans show a standard cargo freighter with no weapons and minimal shielding. There is nothing to fear from such a vessel on the bridge of the Endurance. Captain Cole watched the tactical display as the 3 Keth-Ari warships began moving into attack formation. Their intentions were clear, and their confidence was about to become their undoing. "They have made their choice," Cole announced to his crew. "All hands, prepare for combat operations. Lieutenant Commander Park, stand ready to drop the masking field on my command." Kevin Park's fingers hovered over his console, anticipation building in his chest. He had waited months for this moment, training endlessly with a crew that shared his determination to make the Keth-Ari pay for every human life they had taken. Commander Harris. "Sound battle stations throughout the ship," Cole continued. "I want every crew member at their assigned position within 60 seconds. Harris activated the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, battle stations. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. All hands to battle stations immediately." Throughout the Endurance, crew members who had been maintaining their cover as civilian workers dropped their pretenses and moved with military precision. Engineers rushed to power stations, security teams grabbed weapons from hidden armories, and damage control parties positioned themselves at critical junctures throughout the ship. Chief Engineer Scott Bradley watched his console as power readings began to climb. "Captain, engineering reports ready. Reactor output can be increased to full military power on your command. Weapon systems are online and standing by." Park reported. "All torpedo tubes loaded, railguns charged, point defense batteries activated." Amy Nguyen flexed her fingers on the helm controls. "Engines ready for combat maneuvers. I have calculated 3 different evasive patterns based on the enemy formation." Cole surveyed his bridge crew with pride. These men and women had volunteered for this mission, knowing the risks involved. They had trained together for 6 months, studying Keth-Ari tactics and preparing for exactly this scenario. Now all that preparation was about to be put to the test. "Open a channel to the Keth-Ari vessels." Cole ordered. Maria Santos activated the communication array. "Channel open, Captain." Cole stood from his chair and faced the view screen as Sethrek's image reappeared. "Warlord, I notice your ships are moving into attack formation. I take this to mean you have rejected my offer of peaceful withdrawal." Sethrek bared his teeth in what passed for a smile. "Among his species, there will be no withdrawal, human. There will only be your complete surrender or your complete destruction. Those are the only options available to you. Then I suppose there is nothing left to discuss," Cole replied calmly. "Except perhaps to correct a significant error in your intelligence about this vessel." He turned to Kevin Park and gave a single nod. "Drop the masking field. Show them what they are really dealing with." Park entered the command sequence, and throughout the Endurance, the transformation began. Hidden panels along the hull slid open with mechanical precision, revealing rows of torpedo tubes that had been concealed behind false cargo containers. What appeared to be communication arrays folded back to expose point defense. Turrets capable of tracking and destroying incoming projectiles with computer-guided accuracy. The most dramatic change occurred along the ship's spine, where 2 massive railgun assemblies extended from compartments that had seemed to hold nothing but storage space. Each railgun was capable of accelerating tungsten projectiles to a significant fraction of light speed, delivering kinetic energy that could punch through the armor of capital. Ship sensor dampening plating retracted throughout the hull, and the Endurance's true power signature blazed across every scanner in the region. What had appeared to be a modest civilian reactor was revealed to be a military-grade fusion plant running at barely 20% capacity on the Keth-Ari flagship. Thorax stared at his sensor display in disbelief. "Warlord, the readings are changing. The human ship is showing new power signatures across multiple frequencies. Sethrak leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. Explain yourself. What kind of new signatures? Military-grade weapon systems, Varax replied, his voice trembling. Torpedo launchers, railgun batteries, point defense networks. Their shields are military specification, not civilian. Warlord, this vessel is not a cargo freighter. Sethrak watched the view screen as the human ship completed its transformation. The harmless merchant vessel he had expected to capture without effort had become something far more dangerous. Weapons bristled from every surface, and the ship's hull seemed to glow with barely contained power. Impossible, Sethrak breathed. Our intelligence indicated humans do not deploy warships disguised as civilian vessels. They do now, Captain Cole said through the still-open communication channel. The Endurance is what we call a Q-ship, Warlord. A military vessel designed to look like an easy target. You and your raiders have been preying on human shipping for 3 years. Earth Defense Command decided it was time to set a trap. The realization of what was happening began to dawn on Sethrak, but his pride would not allow him to accept it. The Cathari had dominated this region of space for generations. They had crushed every opponent who dared to challenge them. One human vessel, no matter how well armed, could not possibly defeat 3 Cathari warships crewed by warriors born and bred for combat. You have weapons, Sethrak admitted grudgingly, but you are still outnumbered 3-1. Your tricks cannot change the mathematics of battle. All ships, attack formation. Destroy the human vessel. The 3 Cathari warships accelerated toward the Endurance, their weapons charging with deadly intent. Plasma cannons hummed with building energy, and torpedo tubes cycled open in preparation for the assault. Cole watched them come without any sign of concern. Helm, execute defensive pattern Alpha. All weapons fire at will. Amy Nguyen's hands moved across her controls, and the Endurance surged forward with acceleration that no cargo ship could have matched. The ship rolled gracefully, presenting its broadside to the enemy formation while keeping all 3 targets within optimal firing arcs. The first railgun salvo screamed across the void between the ships. Tungsten slugs moving so fast they were invisible to the naked eye. They struck the lead Cathari warship's shields with devastating force, overloading the protective barrier and punching through the armor beneath. Explosions rippled across the enemy vessel as the projectiles tore through critical systems. The forward weapons array was reduced to twisted metal and sparking wires. Atmosphere vented from multiple hull breaches, creating streams of crystallizing gas that trailed behind the wounded ship. Direct hits on Target 1, Kevin Park reported. Their forward shields are down. Weapons systems destroyed. They are attempting to retreat. Sethrak watched in horror as his flagship took damage that should have been impossible. Human weapons were supposed to be inferior. Human tactics were supposed to be predictable. Nothing, in his experience, had prepared him for an enemy who struck with such speed and precision. The battle had barely begun, and already everything was going wrong. The second Cathari warship attempted a flanking maneuver, accelerating hard to port in an effort to catch the human vessel in a crossfire. The pilot was experienced and skilled, having participated in dozens of successful raids against merchant shipping throughout the sector, but Amy Nguyen had spent years flying combat missions against opponents far more dangerous than pirates. She anticipated the flanking attempt before it fully developed, rolling the Endurance to maintain optimal firing positions while simultaneously presenting the smallest possible target profile. "They're trying to get behind us," Nguyen reported, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her system. Adjusting course to compensate, Captain. Cole gripped the armrests of his command chair as the ship executed a sharp turn that would have torn a civilian vessel apart. Military-grade inertial dampeners absorbed most of the G-forces, but the crew still felt the pull of the maneuver in their bones. "Target the flanking vessel's engines," Cole ordered. "I want them dead in space." Kevin Park locked onto the second warship and triggered a spread of Hellfire torpedoes. 3 missiles streaked away from the Endurance, their guidance systems tracking the enemy vessel with relentless precision. The Cathari pilot tried to evade, throwing his ship into a desperate spiral that pushed his engines to their limits. Point defense guns on the warship's hull spat streams of defensive fire, trying to intercept the incoming torpedoes before they could reach their target. One torpedo was destroyed, its warhead detonating harmlessly in the void between the ships. But the other 2 found their mark, slamming into the warship's engine section with catastrophic results. The first explosion tore through the primary drive assembly, sending debris spinning in all directions. The second torpedo hit the secondary engines a fraction of a second later, creating a chain reaction that ripped through the entire aft section of the vessel. Target 2's engines are offline, Lisa Vance reported from her sensor station. They are drifting without power, reading multiple hull breaches and significant casualties aboard. The third Cathari warship had seen enough. Its captain recognized the losing battle when he saw one and decided that survival was more important than honor. The ship began turning away from the engagement, its engines flaring as it attempted to build enough speed to escape into hyperspace. "The third vessel is running," Commander Harris observed. "Should we let them go?" Cole shook his head. "Negative. If they escape, they will warn other raiding parties about our presence. We cannot allow that to happen." He turned to Kevin Park. "Disable their hyperdrive. Keep them in normal space." Park calculated the firing solution with practiced efficiency. The railguns hummed as they charged for another salvo. And then twin streaks of light lanced across the void toward the fleeing warship. The slugs struck the third vessel's hyperdrive assembly with surgical precision, destroying the delicate systems required for faster-than-light travel. The ship lurched as secondary explosions rippled through its engineering section, but it remained intact and capable of normal space travel. "Hyperdrive confirmed destroyed," Park announced. "They are not going anywhere." On the bridge of Sethrak's flagship, chaos reigned. Damage control teams rushed to contain fires spreading through multiple decks, while emergency force fields struggled to seal hull breaches. The acrid smell of burning electronics filled the air. Mixing with the coppery scent of Cathari blood, Sethrak stared at the tactical display, watching the icons representing his fleet blink with damage indicators. In less than 3 minutes, his supposedly superior force had been reduced to crippled wrecks. The human vessel floated among them like a predator surveying its wounded prey. "How is this possible?" Sethrak demanded of no one in particular. "Humans are weak. They lack the warrior spirit. They surrender when faced with superior force." Varax looked up from his damaged console, his yellow eyes wide with a mixture of fear and dawning understanding. "Perhaps our intelligence was wrong, Warlord. Perhaps humans have been hiding their true capabilities." Sethrak whirled on his tactical officer with fury blazing in his eyes. "You suggest that humans have been deceiving the entire galaxy? That they have allowed themselves to be seen as prey while secretly possessing the means to destroy anyone who attacks them? I suggest that they have destroyed 3 of our warships in less time than it takes to finish a meal," Varax replied carefully. "The evidence speaks for itself." On the Endurance, Captain Cole allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction. The battle had gone exactly as planned, with minimal damage to his own vessel and maximum damage to the enemy. But the mission was not yet complete. "Status report." Cole requested Chief Engineer Scott Bradley checked his displays. "Shields are holding at 87%. We took a few glancing hits from plasma fire, but nothing penetrated. All primary systems are functioning normally. Weapon status?" Cole asked. "Railguns are at full capacity," Kevin Park responded. Torpedo tubes reloaded and ready. Point defense batteries have expended 12% of their ammunition supply. Casualties? Commander Harris reviewed the incoming reports from department heads throughout the ship. Lieutenant Rachel Graham took some minor injuries from a console spark on Deck 4. She has already been treated and returned to duty. No other injuries to report. Cole nodded with satisfaction. His crew had performed flawlessly, executing months of training with precision that would have made any admiral proud. Now came the next phase of the operation. Open a channel to all 3 Keth-Ari vessels. Cole ordered Maria Santos work her controls. Channel open, Captain. Broadcasting on all frequencies. Cole stood and addressed the view screen, knowing that his words would be heard by every surviving Keth-Ari in the raiding party. Attention all Keth-Ari personnel. This is Captain Nathan Cole of the Earth Defense Forces. Your ships have been disabled and your weapons destroyed. Further resistance is futile and will only result in additional casualties. He paused, letting his words sink in before continuing. You have 2 choices. You can surrender peacefully and be taken into custody to face justice for your crimes against human civilians. Or you can continue to fight and be destroyed. The decision is yours, but I strongly recommend you choose wisely. On the crippled flagship, Sethric listened to the human's ultimatum with barely contained rage. Surrender was unthinkable. Keth-Ari warriors did not submit to inferior species. No matter the circumstances, but as he looked around his ruined bridge, at the wounded crew members struggling to keep critical systems online, at the tactical display showing 3 icons blinking red with critical damage, Sethric was forced to confront an uncomfortable truth. The humans were not inferior. They had never been inferior. Everything the Keth-Ari believed about them was a lie. Either deliberately fabricated or willfully misunderstood. The soft species that surrendered without fighting had just annihilated his entire raiding party in less time than it took to conduct a proper sensor scan. The cowardly creatures who valued their lives above honor had shown more tactical skill and fighting spirit than any opponent Sethric had ever faced. Warlord, Varax said quietly, we should consider the humans' offer. There is no shame in recognizing when a battle is lost. Sethric turned to his tactical officer with murder in his eyes. No shame? You would have me surrender to humans? You would have the Keth-Ari Dominion become a laughingstock among the stars? I would have us survive, Varax replied. Dead warriors bring no glory to the Dominion. Living warriors can fight again another day. The warlord's clawed hands clenched into fists as he struggled with the impossible choice before him. His entire understanding of the universe had been shattered in the span of a few minutes, and the pieces would never fit back together the same way. Sethric made his decision with the reckless determination of a warrior who had never learned how to accept defeat. He would not surrender, not to humans, not to anyone. If the Keth-Ari Dominion was going to fall, it would fall fighting. All remaining weapons target the human ship's bridge, Sethric commanded. Kill their captain and destroy their command structure. We may not survive this battle, but we will take them with us. The surviving crew members exchanged uncertain glances, but their training and loyalty to their warlord overcame their doubts. Weapons officers scrambled to bring whatever systems still functioned back online, redirecting power from non-essential areas to charge the few plasma cannons that had survived the initial assault on the Endurance. Lisa Vance detected the power fluctuations immediately. Captain, the flagship is redirecting power to weapons. They appear to be preparing for another attack. Cole had expected this possibility. The intelligence reports had indicated that Keth-Ari commanders rarely surrendered, preferring death in battle to the shame of capture. Sethric was apparently no exception. Helm, maintain defensive posture, Cole ordered. Point defense. Stand ready to intercept incoming fire. The crippled Keth-Ari flagship unleashed everything it had left. a desperate barrage of plasma bolts and kinetic rounds aimed at the Endurance's command section. It was a last stand, a final act of defiance from a warrior who refused to accept the reality of his situation. The Endurance's point defense systems, activated with mechanical precision. Automated turrets tracked each incoming projectile and calculated intercept solutions in fractions of a second. Streams of defensive fire reached out across the void, destroying plasma bolts and kinetic rounds before they could reach the ship's shield's abayas. Few shots made it through the defensive screen, impacting against the Endurance's military-grade shielding with bright flashes of dissipating energy. The shields flickered but held firm, absorbing impacts that would have destroyed a civilian vessel many times over. Shields at 79% and holding, Scott Bradley reported. That is everything they have. There is no way they can sustain fire at that intensity. Kevin Park watched his tactical display as the enemy barrage rapidly diminished. Their weapons are depleted, Captain. Tower readings indicate they have nothing left. Cole studied the view screen, watching the crippled Cathari flagship drift among the debris of its shattered fleet. Escape pods were launching from all three vessels as crew members decided that survival was more important than dying for a warlord's pride. The second and third vessels are launching escape pods. Lisa Vance confirmed. I count 43 pods so far, with more launching every few seconds. Have medical teams stand by to receive survivors, Cole ordered, and dispatch security teams to prepare the brig. We will have a lot of prisoners to process. Commander Harris began coordinating the logistics of handling potentially hundreds of captured enemy personnel. It was a complex operation that required careful planning to ensure both the safety of the crew and the humane treatment of the prisoners on the Cathari flagship. Sethrak slumped in his command throne as the final shots dissipated harmlessly against the human shields. His weapons were empty, his ship was dying, and his fleet was nothing but debris and escape pods. Vorax approached cautiously. Warlord, the crew is abandoning ship. We should go to the escape pods while there is still time. I will not flee, Sethrak replied, his voice hollow with defeat. I am a warlord of the Cathari Dominion. I will die on my bridge. Then you will die for nothing, Vorax said, surprising himself with his own boldness. The humans will capture the survivors. They will learn everything we know about our raiding operations, our base locations, our fleet dispositions. Your death will not prevent that. It will only rob the Dominion of a commander who has learned valuable lessons about human capabilities. Sethrak turned to look at his tactical officer with something approaching respect. You speak dangerous words, Vorax. I speak truthful words, Vorax replied. Someone must survive to warn the Dominion about what we have learned here today. Humans are not what we believe them to be. The Council must be informed. Before Sethrak could respond, the view screen activated once more, showing Captain Cole's face. The human wore an expression that combined determination with something Sethrak did not expect. Something that looked almost like compassion. Warlord Sethrak, Cole said. Your weapons are depleted, and your ship is losing life support. I am giving you one final opportunity to surrender peacefully. Board an escape pod and allow yourself to be taken into custody. You have my word that you and your crew will be treated humanely. Humanely. Sethrak repeated the word as if testing its meaning. Do you expect me to believe that humans will show mercy to Cathari prisoners? After all we have done to your people? That is precisely what I am telling you, Cole replied. Humans are not like you, Warlord. We do not measure our worth by how cruelly we treat the defeated. We measure it by how justly we treat them. You will face trial for your crimes, but you will be given medical treatment, adequate food, and fair proceedings. That is more than you ever gave any human you captured. Sethrak considered the human's words, searching for the deception he was certain must be present. But he found nothing except what appeared to be genuine sincerity. The human captain actually believed what he was saying. Why? Sethrak asked. Why would you spare enemies who have killed your people and enslaved your citizens? Cole paused before answering, choosing his words carefully. Because revenge is not justice, warlord. Destroying you might feel satisfying in the moment, but it would not bring back the people you killed. It would not free the slaves you sold to distant markets. It would only make us more like you. He leaned forward slightly. Humanity did not reach the stars by becoming monsters. We reached the stars by refusing to become monsters. Even against enemies who deserve no mercy, we choose to show it. That is what makes us who we are. Sethrak stared at the human captain for a long moment, trying to reconcile this creature with everything he had been taught about the weak and cowardly species that populated Earth and its colonies. Perhaps the greatest shock of this entire battle was not the hidden weapons or the superior tactics. It was the discovery that humans could destroy their enemies completely and choose not to. That they possessed the power to be merciless and deliberately rejected it. Your mercy will be your downfall, Sethrak said finally. Spare your enemies and they will return to fight you again. Cole shook his head. Some will. Others will remember the mercy they were shown and question whether fighting us is worth the cost. Either way, we remain true to our principles. Sethrak rose slowly from his command throne, every movement carrying the weight of his shattered pride. Very well, human. I will surrender. But know that this changes nothing. The Cathari Dominion will not forget this defeat, and others will come to avenge our fallen. Then we will be waiting for them, Cole replied. Just as we waited for you. He ended the transmission and turned to his crew. Prepare to receive prisoners. I want this operation conducted with professionalism and respect. These may be our enemies, but they are also sentient beings deserving of basic dignity. Commander Harris nodded and began issuing orders. All security teams, prepare for prisoner processing. Medical teams to all airlocks. I want translators ready to communicate with the survivors. The battle was over. Now the more difficult work would begin. The hours following the battle were filled with organized chaos as the crew of the Endurance worked to process survivors and secure the debris field. Escape pods were collected one by one. Their occupants transferred to holding areas that had been prepared in the lower decks of the ship. Lieutenant Commander Chris Dalton supervised the security teams with calm efficiency, ensuring that each prisoner was searched for weapons and then escorted to the brig without incident. The captured Cathari warriors shuffled through the corridors in stunned silence, their yellow eyes taking in every detail of the vessel that had destroyed their fleet. Many of them had expected to be executed immediately upon capture. Cathari tradition demanded the death of prisoners who could not be ransomed or sold. The fact that the humans offered medical treatment and food instead of torture and death left them deeply confused in the medical bay. Dr. Amanda Collins worked alongside her team to treat wounded prisoners regardless of species. A Cathari warrior with severe burns lay on a biode while human nurses applied regenerative gel to his injuries. Another alien with a broken arm was being fitted with a stabilizing cast. I do not understand, the burned warrior rasped, his voice weak from pain and smoke inhalation. Why do you help us? We are your enemies. Dr. Collins checked his vital signs without pausing in her work. Because you are injured and I am a doctor. That is all that matters right now. The warrior fell silent, unable to comprehend a philosophy so fundamentally different from everything he had been taught on the bridge. Captain Cole reviewed the final casualty reports with Commander Harris. The battle had been swift and decisive, resulting in minimal damage to the Endurance and 0 fatalities among the crew. Final count on the prisoners? Cole asked. 94 survivors in custody, including Warlord Sethrak, Harris replied. Another 12 were recovered from escape pods that had suffered damage during the battle. Medical teams are working to stabilize them. Estimated enemy casualties stand at 237 confirmed. Cole nodded slowly. Those numbers represented a devastating blow to Cathari raiding operations in this sector. The loss of 3 warships and their experienced crews would take years to replace. And the intelligence gathered from the prisoners would allow Earth Defense Command to strike at other raiding parties before they could attack human shipping. Send a coded transmission to Fleet Command. Cole ordered. Report mission success and request a support ship to assist with prisoner transport. We do not have the facilities to hold this many captives for an extended period. Maria Santos began composing the message while the rest of the bridge crew returned to their normal duties. The adrenaline of combat was fading, replaced by the steady routine of shipboard operations. Lisa Vance looked up from her sensor station with something approaching wonder in her eyes. Captain, we actually did it. We stopped them. We stopped these 3 ships, Cole corrected gently. The Cathari Dominion has hundreds more. This is just the beginning. But it is a beginning, Commander Harris observed. Word of this battle will spread. Raiders will think twice before attacking vessels in human space. Cole allowed himself a small smile. That is the idea. Make them uncertain, make them hesitate. Every raider who decides to hunt elsewhere is a human ship that makes it home safely. Hours later, when the immediate work was complete and the Endurance was cruising toward the nearest starbase, Cole stood alone on the observation deck. The debris field had long since faded from view, but he could still see it in his mind. The twisted remains of ships that had come to prey on the helpless and found something very different waiting for them. The door hissed open behind him, and footsteps approached. Cole turned to find Ensign Megan Price standing at attention, her young face marked with a mixture of curiosity and respect. Captain, may I speak with you? At ease, Ensign, Cole replied. What is on your mind? Price relaxed slightly and moved to stand beside him at the viewport. I have been thinking about the battle, sir. About what we did and why we did it. And what conclusions have you reached? The young officer considered her words carefully. Everyone in the academy learns about human military history. The wars we fought, the enemies we defeated, the civilizations we built, and the ones that fell. But I never really understood what it meant until today. She turned to face him directly. We let them think we were weak. We let them believe humans were easy prey. And then we showed them the truth. Is that what humanity has been doing all along? Cole studied the ensign for a moment before responding. Humans have always been underestimated, Ensign. Our history is full of examples. Enemies who thought we were too soft, too civilized, too merciful to fight back. They learned their mistakes the hard way. He returned his gaze to the stars. We do not seek conflict. We prefer trade and diplomacy and peaceful cooperation. But when someone mistakes that preference for weakness, when they decide to test our resolve, they discover that the species who crawled out of the mud and reached for the stars is anything but soft. Price absorbed his words in silence for several seconds. Do you think the Cathari will learn from this? Will they stop attacking us? Some will, Cole replied. Sethric was a true believer in Cathari superiority. Nothing we could have done would have changed his fundamental views. But there were others aboard those ships, young officers like Varax, who saw what we are capable of and will carry that knowledge back to their people. He thought of the wounded warrior in medical, the one who had asked why humans helped their enemies. Every prisoner we treat with dignity, every wound we heal, every fair trial we conduct. These things matter. They show the galaxy that strength and mercy can coexist. That power does not require cruelty. And if they keep attacking us anyway, Cole's expression hardened slightly. Then we keep fighting. We deploy more Q-ships, train more crews, build more weapons. We make the cost of attacking human vessels so high that even the most aggressive species will think twice. But we never become the monsters they expect us to be. That is the line we do not cross. The conversation was interrupted by a chime from the intercom. Captain Cole to the bridge. We are receiving a response from Fleet Command. Cole straightened his uniform and headed for the door, pausing at the threshold to look back at the young ensign. You did well today, Price. Your generation will face challenges we cannot imagine. Remember what you learned here. I will, sir. On the bridge, Maria Santos relayed the message from Fleet Command. The mission had been classified as a complete success, and 3 more Q-ships were being deployed to other high-traffic shipping lanes. The strategy was working, and the tide was beginning to turn as the Endurance continued toward home. Captain Cole reflected on the strange nature of humanity's place in the galaxy. A species that had risen from primitive origins through sheer determination and adaptability. A people who had nearly destroyed themselves dozens of times before finally learning to work together. A civilization that valued peace above all else, but possessed the capability to wage war with terrifying efficiency. They had come to the stars, hoping to find friends and allies among the countless species that populated the galaxy. Instead, they had found predators who saw them as nothing more than prey. But humans had faced predators before, throughout their long and violent history, and they had always found a way to survive. The Cathari had made the same mistake so many had made before them. They had looked at humanity and seen weakness where there was restraint. They had seen cowardice where there was compassion. They had seen easy prey and found instead an enemy who would never surrender, never retreat, and never stop fighting until the battle was won. The message had been delivered in fire and steel, and it would echo across the stars for generations to come. Humanity was not prey. Humanity had never been prey, and those who forgot that lesson would be reminded as many times as necessary, for as long as the stars continued to burn in the endless void of space.